I have been forbidden to describe this occasion as a straight talk from a bent speaker. So instead, we'll say it's like a sermon from a priest who is more sinful than you are. I am here to try to cure you of your freedom, for I am convinced that it is an excess of freedom which has made everybody in the world so miserable. I come from a time where there was so little liberty that if a girl wanted to wear nail varnish, she had to leave home for good. Now you all do, wear, and say whatever you like. But wherever I look, people are not rejoicing. They are complaining. So I must assume that what has made everybody in the world so angry is the element which has been added to their lives in recent times, their freedom. Now, I know it's too late to ask you to abide by restrictions handed down to you by your pastors and your masters and your elders and your betters. What I think we need are chains of our own making. No matter how heavy these may be, they will never feel as irksome as limitations placed upon us by others. And not just any old chains. We must have a system. And this begins with each of us trying to decide what it is that makes him the way that he is. Now, this involves a journey to the interior, not altogether a pleasant experience. Because as well as totaling up what you see to be your assets, you'll also have to take a long, hard look at those things that your friends call the trouble with you. And the synthesis between these two opposite opinions will be your identity. But that's not quite enough. Your identity is like your fingerprints. Now, these too are your very own, but if they are discovered, they may be used against you. Therefore, you will have to polish up your raw identity until it becomes a lifestyle. Something interesting, by which you are prepared, by which you are proud to be identified, and with which you can do barter with the outer world to get from it what you want. I won't say what you deserve, because if we all got what we deserved, we would starve. Now, I know I'm rattling on about problems which by world standards would seem trivial. This I understand. But I do so because never a day goes by, well, never a month goes by, without somebody coming to me and saying, "Oh, you do have a nice life." Me? This would be a reasonable remark if I lived as you do, in mansions riddled with standard of living. But I don't. I live on the Lower East Side of Manhattan, just beyond Redemption, in a small room which has never been cleaned in 18 years. And this brings me to my first message of hope. Never sweep the place where you live, because after the first 4 years, the dirt doesn't get any worse. It's just a question of not losing your nerve. Now, I'm only telling you these things so as to set you free from these boring domestic rituals, so as to give you some time each day when you stop looking outward and start looking inward, so as to decide who you truly are. Now, the next thing that my visitors say is, "Oh, you do know such wonderful people." And I do. But this, too, would only be a logical comment if my room was stuffed with people of wealth and influence. But it isn't. It's crammed with the denizens of the Lower East Side. And this brings me to my second message of hope. Never try to keep up with the Joneses. Drag them down to your level. It's cheaper. And then I am asked, where do I meet these wonderful people? And I say, as a rule, in layabout cafes. Those marvelous places where you could sit through lunch and tea and supper with just one cup of coffee. I used to offer to take my friends to one of these places, but whenever I did so, they would utter the words, "Of course, once we get there, you'll have to tell me what to say." Now, I hope I am painting a thoroughly depressing picture of somebody who has reduced himself to the point to which he envies me, and who seems to be living life like a kidnapped victim, in unwanted isolation, only a few yards from where the traffic of the world is going by, with nothing more substantial boarding up the windows than self-doubt. The words, "You'll have to tell me what to say," are a clue. Now, they show us that we are not just dealing with a dreary old search for true love. The person who wants to make friends doesn't have to think what to say. He has to learn how to listen. Now, we'd all like to have friends, but if it means we've got to listen, the price is ridiculous. So, what does he want? As I see it, he longs for somewhere to go, and wants there for somebody to be. But where and who? When modern man looks round in search of a destiny, nothing presents itself to him as it did when I was young, as being suited to his age, his sex, his station in life. Nowadays, whichever direction he looks in, he finds himself in a landscape without signposts, without milestones, without roads. And the sheer vastness of the terrain that lies before him may make him feel small. Now, if we are to develop a lifestyle, we must banish forever all thoughts which are self-diminishing. We mustn't imagine that anything we discover on that journey to the interior is too trivial or even too distasteful to present to the world. The curiosity of the neighbors about you is a tribute to your individuality, and you should encourage it. By doing this, you'll need never defend yourself. I am appalled by the lust for evasion, which seems to be absolutely everywhere, even among actors, who presumably are a nation of exhibitionists. Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton were so great that they brought style to marriage, and then they brought style to divorce. Yet even they expressed the fear that the press photographers of Rome would take pictures of them in the lavatory. Now, the way to deal with that problem is not to build a higher and higher wall around your villa, but to learn to urinate with style. I am told that we live in a sex-ridden society. I would say that we live in a world corroded with envy. This I have no difficulty in substantiating. When I turn on my television, what does it show me? Somebody marching through streets, screeching for equal pay, equal opportunity. Equal is a dead word. Never take as your object in life the desire to be anybody's equal. Once you have entered the profession of being, you have become a professor of a subject on which you are the only living authority. What other people do with their lives, with their style, will not matter. The constant overwatch and perfection of your idea of yourself and the presentation of it, gift-wrapped to the world, that is a unifying and invigorating way of life. And it carries with it a built-in invitation to the party at the end of the world. That glittering occasion at which everybody will be speaking and nobody will be listening. And if you are armed with your style, you will be able to run towards that happy hubbub without the faintest fear that you will be out of your depth, without the faintest doubt but that you will shine. And more important than any of this, the burdens of your sorrowful and angry freedom will fall away from you forever. You will know who you are. You will know where you are going. I'm Brian Edward. Thank you.